What up, guys? Spot on picks here. And this week we're going to be diving into UFC 247. But first, I want to let you guys know about this little competition I've joined. It's called the Predictor Wars, made by another YouTuber named Mr. Arkansas. And it's basically a competition between all the most consistent fight predictors on YouTube, adding up their totals from each week. And we're really going to find out who's the most accurate predictor on YouTube. I truly believe that, you know, I'm one of the best out, man. I truly believe I have some of the most consistent breakdowns of fights out there. So um, it's really cool, this guy, Mr. Arkansas, to put this together. You guys should go check out his channel. But right now we're first in our division in the Predictor Wars. So we're trying to keep it going, man. Um, yeah, let's get into it. Starting it off with two guys making their UFC debut. You got Lingo versus Youssef Zalal. And when it comes to a fight like this, two guys making their debut, you gotta look at their camps because both these guys are very green, young guys, and uh, you have Youssef. He basically only has a jab and a leg kick, no power in his hands at all. In his in the past three fights, I mean, this guy Jamie Hernandez, he's fighting is really a trash can. Uh, Lingo 7-0, fighting out of Fortis MMA. And he's a bit better competition in his last few fights. You know, Factory X versus Fortis MMA. Right now, I'm leaning towards Fortis. This new wave of fighter, they're pushing out, showing a lot of potential. Saif Saud, the head coach there, is really putting a lot of good fighters out. Lingo, good power in his hands. He's from Texas. In this fight, I'm going with the hometown guy, Lingo. Aggressive, um, power, nice left hook, confident in there. And I think the hometown fighter wins a decision in this one. Next up, Andrea Ewell versus Jonathan Martinez. Andrea Ewell, when this guy came to the UFC, I'm actually surprised that he's the favorite in this fight because uh, he he just is a very lackluster fighter. Came into the UFC against Renan Barao, and that was really before we found out Barao was done. Uh, After that, man, Nathaniel Wood just annihilated him. He beat a smaller guy in Anderson Dos Santos, and against Marlon Vera, Andre was gassed after the first few minutes, man. I was really disappointed in that fight. Jonathan Martinez really coming on strong in the UFC. After taking a loss to Andre Sukumtao in his UFC debut, he really learned from that fight. In your UFC debut, it's never really going to be your best performance, as I've learned after watching many guys struggle in their UFC debuts. In his last fight, man, he really put all the pieces together. Came up with that knee up the middle for a beautiful knockout. This guy's a southpaw, mainly a striker. Good fundamentals though, and he attacks the body, which I really like. He mixes it up well. Andre Well, man, I don't think this guy even trains that much. I checked out his Instagram, and he's training in Fitness 19 gyms and not top-notch training centers. Jonathan is training at Fact. He's out there in Denver or with the Devontae Smith and those guys. So um, Andre, man, he's just not really taking. He's not training like a professional fighter should. He doesn't train at a real camp. It's just these guys are on different trajectories in the UFC right now, and I think Martinez can get him out of there because if a well gasses the way he did in his last fight, Martinez should get him out of there, but I'm confident in Jonathan Martinez to win a decision in that one. Next up, we got Domingo Pilarte versus Newson. This fight is really about who improved the most since their UFC debut? Because, Journey made his UFC debut against a tough guy in Ricardo Ramos, who's just, he's going through that division right now. If you look at it, wins over Grigori, and uh, he has a lot of good wins in that division. Pilarte, I was high on this guy coming off the Contender Series, and he really just got wrestled to a pulp in his last fight, and still came out with a split decision. The guy he fought was just way bigger than him and used his size advantage to just get him down to the ground and hold him there. This guy does fight kind of lackadaisical at times, but so does Journey Newson. He doesn't fight with too much urgency. He's willing to kind of stay on the outside, even though he is the smaller fighter, which worries me. And I think in this fight, Journey's gonna have a little bit of trouble with a long southpaw in Domingo. Um, both these guys are kind of small for the weight class, and Journey, he has good fundamentals, a good leg kick, but that's all he really has is boxing and a leg kick. I think Domingo's a little bit more dynamic in his striking, and I think he'll kind of keep Newsom at the end of his punches, maybe end up on top in a scramble and just win a decision. Next fight, we have Miles Johns versus Mario Bautista. This dude, Mario Bautista, is the definition of a scrappy fighter. Made his debut against Corey Sandhagen, and he put up a hell of a fight in that first round. He did take a loss in that fight, but he really showed what he's all about. It was competitive up until Corey caught him in an armbar. Then in the second fight against Jinsu Sun, he really showcased all his skills. Dude brings a lot of tools to the table. Good clinch work, dynamic in his striking, and he's some good submissions in his arsenal as well. Got Miles Johns, and he made his debut against Cole Smith, and he won a split decision in that fight, but he really disappointed me with his performance in that one. Um, he fought a close fight, and he really showed that he doesn't bring that many tools to the table. He basically has a jab and a big overhand. And if you can defend that, you have a pretty good shot of beating Miles Johns. Um, the two camps in this one are Mario's training at the MMA lab in Arizona, and Miles Johns is at Fortis MMA in Texas. So for this one, I think the MMA lab, a better set of coaches, John Crouch, and I really think they're gonna put Mario Bautista over the edge in this fight. He just has way more tools than Miles, and I see him winning a clear decision in this one. Possibly catching Johns in a submission if he's slipping, but I got Mario Bautista decision in that one. Next up, Alex Morono versus Kalinn Williams. Now, Kalinn Williams is taking this fight on about a week's notice, so it's not going to be too competitive of a fight. I mean, you guys know Alex Morono. He's been in the UFC for a little bit. Yeah, since 2016, and he has some good wins. He can beat a certain level of competition. Kalinn Williams, he's a decent fighter. He's kind of slow, kind of telegraphs his punches, but um, Alex Morono is just too experienced of a striker in this one. He knows how to win a 3-round decision on the feet, and I guess that's my lock of the night for sure. Alex Morono, TKO if Kalinn is that out of shape, but Alex Morono decision most likely. Then we got Andrea Lee versus Lauren Murphy. Now, what this fight really comes down to is, Andrea is a top 5 fighter in this division. Lauren Murphy is really just a top 10 gatekeeper. And, Andrea took a loss in the last fight against Joanne Calderwood. And, she disappointed me in that fight. I thought she could pull it off, but she showed that she's not as good as I thought she was. Just a lot of holes in her game. Couldn't really defend the leg kick. She got stuck on her back. But against this level of competition, Lauren Murphy, just a gatekeeper in this division. Andrea is just too big, too strong. She has the better striking in this matchup. Should be an easy win for her. Then we got Trevin Giles versus Antonio Arroyo. Trevin Giles, man, one of the most low IQ fighters I've ever seen in that octagon. Always making crucial mistakes that have cost him in his UFC career. In his past 2 fights, coming off 2 submission losses in a row. He got put out cold in his last fight by Gerald Meerschaert. Antonio Arroyo coming off the Contender Series. Made his UFC debut against Andre Muniz, and I picked Muniz in that fight, but I thought Antonio did enough to win that one. It was a close fight. He's mainly a striker. He has nice kicks. In this fight, I think Antonio's a bit bigger. He fights a bit more aggressive. Trevin mainly just looks to counterpunch. So I don't think this is going to be the most exciting fight, but I expect Antonio to just outstrike Giles and just win a lackluster decision. Nothing too exciting, but pretty confident in Antonio to get the win in this one. Just stylistically, it's a good matchup for him. Giles doesn't have too much of an offensive wrestling game, so Antonio should be able to chop him down with those kicks and win an easy decision. And we have Derrick Lewis versus Ilir Latifi. Man, I can't believe this fight's happening. Um, Ilir moving up from light heavyweight, but I mean he couldn't make light heavyweight anymore. So the question is the move up gonna help his gas tank that much? And in this matchup, I think it will. Derrick Lewis, Derrick Lewis, man. Throughout his career, he's always, he never really put the work in. He didn't take fighting seriously, really. Um, this dude just has power. And in his last fight against Blagoy Ivanov, Derrick admitted that he thought he lost that fight. He was surprised that he got the decision. But he's a minus 275 favorite in this fight. And, I think Ilir Latifi not having to cut weight is going to benefit him hugely. He always did remind me of Daniel Cormier a bit. Daniel Cormier said that he's one of the strongest people he's ever grappled with. So, you guys seen what DC did to Derrick Lewis? He just took him down, submitted him in 2 rounds. So, I'm expecting Ilir. Ilir Latifi has underrated leg kicks, man. So I think he can work his leg kicks. I think he'll be the quicker fighter in there. If he can mix in his takedowns and his kicks, I expect him to win this fight. His gas tank was just so bad at 205. Him not having to cut weight, mixing in his takedowns, mixing in his leg kicks. I see Ilir Latifi winning a decision in this one. Maybe taking Lewis down and submitting him, but I'm going with Ilir Latifi in this one. Next up, we got Dan Ige versus Mirsad Bektic. Now, what have we seen from Mirsad Bektic throughout his career? This dude does not have a gas tank. Dan Ige, on the other hand, this dude impressed me against Kevin Aguilar. He's on a nice 4-fight win streak after losing his UFC debut, but against Kevin Aguilar, who's a tough fighter, man, he really put on a show, showed out all aspects of his game. But what stood out most about him in that fight was his high fight IQ, man. He mixes everything together well. Mixing the leg kicks with the body kicks, with the boxing. Just a complete game all around. Mirsad Bektic, ever since his Darren Elkins loss, you kind of see what he's all about. He has a bit of power, but only in the first round. after that, he drops off a significant amount. This dude does not have much of a gas tank. So for this fight, I think the first round will be close, and Ige will take over as the fight goes on. Because Dan Ige, man, even in the third round in his last fight, he did not even have his mouth open. Like he didn't look tired at all in the third round. So I think he's gonna push a pace on Mirsad and just win a decision. But you never know. Mirsad Bektic did get dropped by a jab in his last fight, so that chin could be gone. Um, but I'm very confident in Dan Ige in this fight. Dan Ige decision. Next up, we have Justin Tafa versus Juan Adams. Um, both, inexperienced heavyweights. Justin coming off a KO loss. Juan Adams coming off a KO loss and a decision loss. But Juan Adams, dude, he's shown to be a mess of a fighter. He's a giant, 6'5", but he really has no striking skill. Um, against Greg Hardy, he was just diving at the legs. Arjan Bular, he really just showed that he has nothing on the feet. Justin Tafa, I did think he would get beat by I thought he would get beat by Yorgan De Castro, but I didn't think he would get knocked out like that. People were saying he would beat Yorgan. I was like, I don't think so, man. Yorgan's already a top 10 heavyweight in that division, so there's no shame in getting put to sleep by a guy like that. Um, but I definitely think Top has the better striking in this matchup. Um, you know, Juan Adams moved to Jackson Wink, and I don't think that will help him too much. One camp with Jackson Wink's not gonna solve all your problems. Um, this dude, he's very sloppy on the feet. He's a big guy for this division, man. He cuts a good amount of weight to get to 265. So uh, Justin, a bit more cleaner on the feet, and I can pretty much guarantee you he's not gonna get KO'd by Juan Adams. So um, I think he outstrikes Juan Adams for a decision. Justin Top a decision in that one. We have the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Katlyn Chookagian. And for this fight, I just want to look at the rankings. Women's flyweight rankings, Katlyn's the number one contender. And out of anyone in this division, I'd say Katlyn could probably put up the most competitive fight out of any girl in this division. Um, some names, no names really stand out. I thought Viviane Araújo might do some things, but she got wrecked in her last fight. Macy Barber, that hype train died down a bit. Antonina Shevchenko's climbing up the rankings. Pauliana Botelho shown some promise, but none of these girls can really mess with Valentina, man. Um, for real. But I'd say Katlyn could probably put up the most competitive fight. You have to remember though, Katlyn is the same girl who got walked down by Jessica I just 2 fights ago. So, there is a reason she's a set plus 700 underdog. Um, at the end of the day, Valentina's just too well rounded with too many weapons for a girl like Katlyn. Um, like Valentina is the second best woman fighter in the world, other than Amanda Nunes. And remember, Valentina almost beat Amanda Nunes. Um, I think Amanda Nunes would annihilate Katlyn Chookagian in a half a round. So there's just levels to this. The question is, how will Valentina win? And I think if Katlyn comes out aggressive, I say Valentina finishes her in the round. But if Katlyn plays it safe and just tries to keep her distance and doesn't want to put herself at risk too much, I think Valentina wins the decision, taking Katlyn down a few times, landing some big shots, and just putting together a masterclass performance. Katlyn showed that, if you make her switch up her game plan a little bit against Jessica she has no answers. And Valentina's putting together a good game plan for this fight. So, um, yeah, I think Valentina gets her out of there at some point. But if Katlyn plays it safe, then Valentina Schevchenko decision. And we got the main event, Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes. When I first looked at this fight, I thought, Reyes does have a power advantage. But that really is the only thing he has in this matchup. Then I thought, can Jones take him down? Well, Weidman took Reyes down pretty easily in the first round. Um, that was a middleweight too. So, and you also have to think Reyes has 0 5-round experience. Man, that really hurts him in this fight. 12-0, coming into a matchup against the greatest fighter of all time. It's just too early for him, in my opinion. Has no 5-round experience. Not to mention, Jones has many more weapons on the feet. Jones never relied on his power. He always relied on his techniques and his kicks, his teep kicks, just to offset his opponents. Um, Reyes really, his weapons are boxing and a roundhouse kick. In this fight, Jones has a 5.5-inch reach advantage. Pretty much, they have similar heights, and in my opinion, I think Reyes is getting into this fight a little too early, but it's understandable because look at the rankings in this division. Thiago Santos, Jones might have a rematch with him later on, but I mean, Jones beat the top 3. He beat Alexander. He beat Teixeira. These guys can't really mess with Jones, man. There's not too much competition in this division. So they're pushing a 12-0 guy, putting him in there with the best fighter of all time. And Reyes is dangerous. He definitely does have power on that left hand, but you just can't rely on power at this level. If you look at Reyes' career, in this fight against Jared Cannonier, Cannonier was giving him trouble, man. Obviously, Jared's fighting at middleweight now, but Cannonier was stuffing his takedowns, landing good shots on Reyes. Against Oben St. Preux, it was Reyes won that, but and then against Ozdemir, Ozdemir kind of gave the blueprint on how to make Reyes a bit uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I think Jones will pick apart Reyes with his teep kick, oblique kick, and take Reyes down to keep him guessing. I really think to finish it, Jones takes him down and submits him at some point. The way Weidman was able to just shoot in on Reyes' hips and get him down so fast. I know Jones watches tape, so I'm pretty sure he's gonna be shooting in at those legs. So this is a showcase fight for Jon Jones. He's got an undefeated southpaw coming in here, and he's gonna show you what the greatest fighter of all time looks like. I expect him to put a good performance on. There's a plane going overhead, but I expect him to put a good performance on and remind people why they call him the greatest fighter of all time. Coming off 2 decision wins. I can see this dude's been in the gym lately, man. He's been putting in that serious work, that championship level work, and he just has too much experience on Reyes. So even if this fight does get into the 4th round, that's That's uncharted territory for Dominick Reyes, while Jones has been there many, many times. Um, so I got John Jones submission in that one. I see him getting a rear naked choke, actually. So we'll see if that happens. Um, Thank you guys for watching. A lot of fun fights on this card. Hopefully, our record stays good in the predictor wars. Um, Gotta keep my consistency up. I want to grow this channel. I appreciate all my subscribers. You guys mean the world to me. Uh, Leave a comment if you disagree with any of my picks. I'll shout you out in the next video if you're right. Thank you guys for watching. Spot on picks. Until next time.